My life depends on being the best at karate in the entire world.
Cobra Kai.
Kidding.
Bonsai, I am the Cobra Kai Kid, and today I am joined by the one and only Sean Chandler to talk about Cobra Kai Season 6. How's it going today, Sean?
I am doing good, ready to talk more Cobra Kai and hopefully have a little bit of back and forth talking about the good, the bad, all of that fun stuff. So I'm excited.
Yes, sir. Yeah, we both got to see the season early, but we've held off on the conversation. At this point of recording, it's been a few weeks, right? Like a little less than 2 weeks. 2 weeks.
Man, July has so much going on. I don't even know when did it drop. It's like so much stuff happening all the time, like the Acolyte, Deadpool, Wolverine, Twisters, Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon. Like so much is happening. I don't even know what's going on. What are we talking about again? Who are you again? Where am I?
You've been busy. What's going on here? Oh wait. Oh, Cobra Kai.
There we go.
Kai,
that's right.
You got the hat. Yeah. Cobra Kai. Oh man, and I always love chatting Cobra Kai, and especially with you. It's super fun, and I know you've been covering it on your channel. I know you've done some reviews, so we're gonna get into all of it. So part 1, episodes 1 through 5 of season 6. That's all we have right now, and we're gonna get part 2 in November, part 3 in 2025. So Netflix. Let me ask you this first. So this was very new for Cobra Kai. Maybe with other shows we're used to it, the weekly releases or the split parts like Stranger Things or the shows on Disney Plus do the weekly releases. But Cobra Kai has always been the whole season at once, all 10 episodes. And there were lots of discussions about, are they going to split it up? And I thought maybe they will, like 2 parts. But I did not think they were going to split it into 3 parts. And each being 5 episodes, and we're going to wait 4 months in between about. So now I want to know what your thoughts were when they first announced that, and when it released and you watched the season, did those thoughts change at all?
So my gut reaction to them breaking up into 3 parts, doing a 15-episode season, was essentially, I get that. I get it. You want to close it out. You want to be bigger than ever. And you don't want it all just be one thing. And 3 parts seems pretty different, but then even as we kind of get a flavor, it feels like part 1 is the choose the team, part 2 is the tournament. I'm assuming part 3 will like be the epilogue for the series, the aftermath, I'm assuming. Something like that. And I go, that makes sense. Even on a story structure, beginning, middle, and end. Okay, I see what we're kind of doing here. When they announced the specific dates and they're 4.5 months apart between parts, that seemed a little bit weird, because then it's like that's a big gap that you feel like you want enough time to where you can breathe, but also doesn't feel like it's such a big gap that it almost feels like a season break. You lose all that momentum. So that seemed odd. But generally speaking, I was like, I get it. I don't have any large scale objection to this. Now we have it. When you're used to getting a full season, this felt a little bit like too much of an appetizer, where as soon as things kind of kicked in and things got started, then it ended. And they said that each part is supposed to be kind of its own story as part of this bigger story, and you can see that this is the story of building of the 2 teams. That does make sense, but it also feels a little bit like we're taking the building of the team and maybe making it an episode or two too long. So there's a few, I had a lot of kind of different feelings on it. And then even more so as soon as it ended, because it does feel so much like an appetizer, that 4.5, 5 months until the next part, you feel that like, okay, it just got started and now I have to wait again. So I don't hate it like some people seem to hate it. Like, you should have just given us all at the same time. Like, no, I'm glad that if this is the end, you're creating a scenario where we do have time to process it and not just, we binge it. Like, we binge it in 2 days or whatever. Yeah. And especially people at home, watching it, you don't get it early to be able to watch it the way that we do necessarily. They're watching it all on a Friday, waking up early, skipping school if school started, watch the whole thing in one day, and then you're done.
That's literally what I did. Yeah.
And so giving it to us, so we have to do that in 3 chunks. I get it, but the length of time between them, I don't get.
Yeah, for me, it's interesting because I mean, I just love this show, and I always like, when it came out all at once, it always like, it was awesome getting to watch it, but then it was also like, now it's done. That's it. I watched it in 5 hours. That's it. So I like the idea of them spacing it out. Upon I would say after it came out, then like my feelings started to get like mixed.
Yeah.
I still am glad we're spacing it out and Cobra Kai's lasting longer.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And it's like the fandom's more interactive because I could tell you as someone who just covers Cobra Kai, that first month the season drops or the few months leading up, it's
right.
so huge. And then after that, everyone just doesn't care until the next season,
right.
which is like a year later. When I say everyone, I mean the general fans.
Right.
But now you have people who are like sticking around more because another part is coming out in a few months.
Mm-hmm.
So that aspect is cool. But I do really agree with you on the momentum.
Mm-hmm.
For me personally, look, I'm going to rewatch part 1 going right into part 2. So I'll be like caught up. I won't forget anything. But I get it. I get it. Like, it's because of what we have gotten for the first 5 seasons, and now we're doing this, like, and also 5 episodes, 35 minutes each. Yeah. That's not a lot.
Right. Like
it would be one thing
you multiply it out and it's a long movie. Like it's 3 hours or
it's
whatever.
a movie.
That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're right. 4 months is a long time. It's a really long time just to get another 3-hour movie. And then we're going to wait again. And it does make me think, like, would it have been more beneficial? And I think, in terms of like, it's hard for me. It's hard for me because at the same time I want to savor it, but it's also like the viewing experience. Like maybe like the criticisms that are there wouldn't be as there if it was like all together. Cause like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think like, I was, I openly stated my reviews. I think this is my least favorite batch of episodes that they've released. And, a bunch of people like, well, you don't even know where they're going yet. And, well, you have an issue with would Miyagi-Do be about doing a tournament? And, what you don't know what they're going to reveal about Mr. Miyagi. You don't know what they're going to learn in the back half of the season. It's like, well, right, but I didn't choose to release this as a batch. I can only evaluate it based off of everything that has been revealed about all of this up to this point in time and what you just gave me. So I'm watching it as someone that, in my case, has been following this whole Mr. Miyagi thing since the 1980s. So a long time. And there's certain philosophical things to it where I go, the idea of them competing in a world tournament feels in opposition to what Miyagi-Do stands for. And I can absolutely see where that would be the big arc that Daniel is on, that he learns through the revelations about Mr. Miyagi's past and engaging in this, that he learns that. But at this moment in time, it just feels like I'm just not connecting with what they're doing because I don't get it in light of what Karate Kid Cobra Kai means to me.
I understand what you're saying, and I think that's one of the things that because season 5, like, this is one of my big things with this season in particular, and the first 5 episodes. Season 5, episode 7, at the end, we found out Kreese reveals the Sekai Taikai. This is Terry Silver's big plan. So in episode 8, when they're competing to enter a spot for the Sekai Taikai, the only reason they're entering is to take down Terry's Cobra Kai.
Right.
Like, that's the purpose. So it's not like, Daniel's like, let's spread Miyagi-Do to the world. It's like, no, we got to like stop Terry Silver. Yeah. And So once Terry is taken down at the end of season 5, then going into season 6, there is no reason to compete in the tournament.
Right.
There's no antagonist. They don't know Kreese is still out there. So their whole thing is like, and I guess this is where my I don't know, where I didn't really feel like the stakes, because the stakes of the Sekai Taikai in those first 5 episodes are Miguel, it's going to look good on his college application. Right. Johnny might get some sponsors. Daniel spreading Miyagi-Do to the world. Like, the stakes are not as there as they were set up to be in season 5 when they were going to enter the tournament. So,
well, and it to me felt an awful lot like you're trying to find an emotional hook, a motivation for each of the characters to cause the conflict, the divisions. Why does everybody want this?
I like that.
Which, like, you need to have that. It's not like, well, hey, whatever happens. Like, you need that. But it also doesn't feel as organic and as justified. So, like, when Miguel's getting really aggressive about, like, I have to do this or my life is over, like, you kind of go, like, that doesn't... Like, maybe it's the 42-year-old man in me that just like sees it's when you're young, you kind of get a little bit of tunnel vision on things, and this is my only chance. This is my and you get old enough and you're like, that's not the way life works. The best things in my life happened after 35, after I had really messed things up, and so you realize like that's not the truth, and that comes with age and maturity. So some of it perhaps is realistic, but at the same time, it feels a lot more contrived. It doesn't feel as earned of a motivation of kid is bullied and find someone that can teach him to fight back, or like it's a much more natural, relatable story. Or even Terry is a bad guy, we know that, so what can we do to stop the bad guy? And then it becomes like, I need to get into college, my life will be over if I don't get into win the world tournament. Like that's such the idea that you would even think you could win the world tournament in your first time entering is like pretty far-fetched. Yeah, like you didn't know this thing existed until a week ago, and now you're like, my life depends on being the best at karate in the entire world. Why? Because I need one more thing on my resume to get into college. You go like, what?
Why did you like do some community service? Or something?
There's other options, man. There's also other colleges, and it's like one conversation with someone. Wasn't the conversation that convinced him, like, dude, don't do your backup plan. You need to like go all in on your bet. And it was a joke. Kyler about like, this was the better party school, and I went for the backup party. Like, it was even a joke. Like, it wasn't even real. It wasn't like, it's like the sort of thing that just kind of like it felt fabricated, and that was the thing that was frustrating to me. Like, to be perfectly clear, if you didn't watch my reviews, this was my least favorite season, but I still enjoy the show because I enjoy the characters, I enjoy the comedy, I enjoy the fights and everything. So it's like I like being in this world with these characters. I just don't feel like this story works as well or as organic as the other seasons, and so it's like, I enjoy being here, but I feel like maybe we met past the most organic, natural into the show, but whether Miguel getting into college or the way that Tori switched sides, it just felt like we're really trying to force the conflict where it felt more organic and natural earlier in the show.
Yeah. We're definitely going to get into all of it. I do think like voice crack. I do think that I like the idea of each character having a personal motivation, and that was something that we saw in the All Valley. That's why that's why Sean, like, this show, it's so interesting because even in the season 4 All Valley, it's not just about who's the better fighter. Whoever like wins, that's their character arc, is going from here to here to here to winning the tournament. But whoever loses, like, it's kind of like their character arc is like. Right. And, this is like the last, unless they do some other stuff, and this is the last chance. So, like, for example, we got like Miguel, right? Who's been the guy since season 1, episode 1. He's like this Karate Kid. This has been like, this is his story. Out of all the young cast, has been his story. If he doesn't win the Sekai Taikai, what the hell? But then at the same time, then you bring in Robbie. You introduce Robbie, and his whole thing is second place, second place, second place. You know, and if he doesn't win and he loses again, it's like, what the hell? So it's like each character has their own reason to win, and I love that. I love that Miguel wants to win, even if it is for college. Like, you know, like let's just say it's for college. Great. Robbie doesn't want to be second place again. Great. Tori wants to prove that she can be a real champion and not have Silver cheat for her. Great. But I also think that you know, in season 4, there was the rivalry against Cobra Kai. It was Miyagi-Do versus Cobra Kai, Eagle Fang versus Cobra Kai. So there was that, but then you had the individual motivations. Here, they have no clue who they're competing against, and it's not until episode 5 at the very end where they see Cobra Kai, they see Kreese, they see Quan. Those guys aren't the antagonists. So right now, it's more like this is just for. It's kind of like for fun in a way. Mm-hmm. It's for fun. It's not really like the stakes aren't there. Like in season 3, Kreese was like putting cobras in Daniel's dealership. Silver was like, you know, burning down Mike's furniture shop. Like there were like those stakes. There was urgency. Like, we gotta take this urgency. You're right, urgency. We gotta take this guy down. But here, there's no urgency.
Right. Yeah, and I don't know, like you said, the thing that the show does really well is it's constantly doing this. Are you team Daniel or team Johnny? Miyagi-Do, Cobra Kai. And then do you like Miguel? Do you like Robbie? Who should Sam end up with? And like, is Tori the worst, or is she just someone with a terrible upbringing that you're constantly rooting for her to be the better version of? Like, it creates this scenario where the audience has reason to debate with one another as to who you're rooting for, why you're rooting for them. And then, as you said very well, the tournaments are the culmination of all the training as well as their character arcs that have very big ramifications for both people. And, you know, that's when you have a show that understands all of its pieces and it's thinking through everything. And one of the nice things about sports shows is that you're able to have such a visual version of the inward struggle. You can take the character arc and put it in an actual sequence where they're literally struggling with another person. And it visualizes it so well. And, you know, the version in this season where they did that was the selection of the team, where they tell us, what is it, episode 3 or whatever, that only this many people get to go. And then you look and you go, all right, how many main cast members do we have? It's more than that. And they're like, you're almost like watching it actively thinking, I hope that this person doesn't get, they better not get, this person better get in. And you're doing that whole number, and creating an interesting turmoil inside of you as you're watching the selection process, as silly as some of it even gets with the, you know, the games and everything. You're like, who's going to make it and why? Who sabotaged who? Who sabotaged Kenny?
Yeah. And it'll be interesting to see what they do with that, because I think the you know, the main people that got out, I think Kenny, like, well, Kenny. Then you have Anthony. Like where are they going to be in part 2? Yeah. Oh, I know what I wanted to ask you. Do you think that, because I would say yes personally, but would you say that when they constructed this 3-part 15-episode thing, do you think they knew pretty much right away that episode 5, like, okay, we're gonna end them arriving at the Sekai Taikai, and then let's work backwards? Do you think that was kind of like their approach?
I would imagine that they probably they're thinking through what do we want to do in this season. So obviously we're going to the tournament. So the question is the tournament, or is it 2 parts? And so the first half is picking it, and second part is the tournament. Is it 3 parts? And so then from there you go, where do we put this piece? and since I'm assuming part 3 is epilogue, it's just tough to know when you're like, they're not going to do a 10 episode tournament like that. That would be,
we have no clue.
And that's where you kind of look at it and I go, I just don't know. Like, not that there aren't 10 more episodes with where things are at to resolve everything and send everyone off to college or whatever, or get a job or start a dojo. Like, there's that. You can do all of that to send everyone off. But with the way that it's structured and they're currently at the tournament, I just don't know. Like, it's tough to know exactly what that's going to look like. But I would assume that they realized that you can't end that with them in Spain. So then we need something on the back end that is kind of the epilogue. I'm guessing that's the way that they did kind of go. Piece 1, pick the team. Piece 2, tournament. Piece 3, let's resolve everything back home. I would think that they started with that and then worked.
For sure. And I think, honestly, I give them so much respect for putting the tournament, boom, episode 6, we're going to jump right in, and then making us wonder, is the tournament going to result? Are we going to find out the winner of the tournament in part 2? Are we going to find out the winner in part 3? Like, we don't even know. And the creators have teased this, like, this tournament isn't going to be like any of the other tournaments we've seen. And I think with the group dynamic, with the 6-person teams, like, we're going to have maybe some team things, we're going to have some like skills things, some one-on-ones. Like, I think it's going to be a really unique tournament because, I mean, it's going to take multiple episodes. And I think they're going into a different direction and we have no clue, which I think is really exciting. I'm like really hyped for that, to see like where they actually take the tournament. I think it'll just be fun.
Well, and I mean, imagine you're going to have something in the tournament where they have to reveal that someone cheated their way on. Like, they're
Devin, you mean?
Yeah, I mean, they have to.
So for sure,
there'll be some reveal. I would guess in her case, her conscience will catch up with her and realize that what she did is in violation of everything they actually believe in, and so then we'll have
fly Kenny out.
Fly Kenny out. Or something.
Kenny gets on a jet.
Yeah, like I'm assuming something like that'll happen. You kind of play it out. I don't know. It's tough to know like what will all of that look like. And I mean I just don't even know. I'm not sure what they're doing with Tori. Like, I know you want to do the back and forth, but when you do a whole season of establishing that these are people that she can trust, something bad happens and hurt people do irrational things. But like, then the next day happens and you go, oh, wait a minute. What am I doing with this old man that the show might have implied killed her? Like, there's a little bit of a moment there was like, are they implying that he killed the mother to like set her on this path? Like, like you wake up the next day and go, oh yeah, that guy is also very suspicious. And maybe the fact that some people were like, hey, let's pause for a second. That's not like, we just learned big information about you. Let's pause for a second. Doesn't mean that they're trying to sabotage your life. Like, you realize it. So I don't know where they're going with this. So what the continued arc is, because there's no way that they're going to end it on, and Tori, well, she had a bad upbringing and her mom died, so I guess she's just a supervillain. like they're not going to do that. And so it's like, are we just going to bring her back again? Like, I just don't know where they're going, but something has to play out in this context.
Yeah. Oh, she's going to come back.
Right.
For sure. Yeah, she's gonna join them somehow. Like, she's not gonna like, it's not gonna be a situation where like, you know, we're in the finals of the Sekai Taikai World Tournament. It's Tori for Cobra Kai versus, you know, whatever. Like, it's I don't think they're gonna wait until the very end to do that. Yeah. I mean, I don't think at all. Like, well, at first when it all happened, I did not think that Kreese killed her mom. Like, that wasn't even a thought in my mind. But then I was like reading like, you know, comments and like doing discussions, and then people were saying that. I was like, wait a second. Like, even though I 1000% don't think that's the case, because I think that would ruin Kreese's character. I think it would be so stupid. Right. I mean, the evidence is there. She literally died right as he came,
Mm-hmm.
and they said she was doing fine before.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, I think someone on my stream said it was a blood clot or something. So
Yeah.
like that, it was something like, it wasn't like any murder. Uh, it couldn't have been murder or anything like that. But like, I I don't know. Like, I was like, yeah, like either that's just a really big coincidence, or he killed her. And I'm gonna go with it's just a big coincidence because I think, yeah,
I mean, like, so like they had a shot where they like lingered on her hand as a fist,
yeah,
and it was
yeah.
like, I mean,
Well,
clearly that means something. You're doing something there. Like, it's just played weird.
I'll tell you why I think they did that. And yes, like when you see the fist, a lot of people were also saying like, yeah, like maybe she was defending herself. But I think the reason they did that was when Sam gave her the fist bump before their fight, it triggered her and she got the flashback of the fist. So it was kind of an interesting, like,
Yeah.
I think they just wanted to do something that would trigger it for her. So they thought fist bump.
Yeah.
Um yeah, but I think something that would have, I mean, look, that it was an emotional story, but I think what would have enhanced it is just spending more time with it and more setup for the whole thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think my problem with it is that it like so the idea of her mother dying is set up seasons past. Like you can
Yeah.
do that, and that feels like that was in there. That makes sense, and it's also very true that when people are sick, when people are old, you can get a great report and then things just turn. And it's like that's the fragility of life. Is that feels right. But they spent a season moving her trust in a different direction. And in particular with Miss LaRusso, there's years, there's seasons worth of her being like, what can I do to help you? I don't like that. That's my husband's karate. Like, you're just a girl that I want to help. And so it's well established. And so then there wasn't enough of a, what's the thread that the death pulls that like it's just a conversation with Kreese, like she'll always put his daughter first. It's not actually like enough of an insecurity in in the
Yeah.
context of like, well, we got to pause for a second. Like we just found this out. You have known this, but you didn't tell us, which itself says you are emotionally compromised. We just want to pause for a second. No, I'm going to Kreese. Like that. Like, it just feels so overcooked of like that you did not set up an insecurity enough where that's even something that you could easily run. Like, oh, these are good people, but there's always that little thing that keeps showing. Daniel keeps putting his daughter first,
I
and those
agree.
little biases, and then you have Johnny puts Devin first, and so you just have something there all along the way that more obviously were a little note every episode of she's always second to Kreese, she's always first.
I agree. I was saying, like, in my discussion about the season, Johnny will always pick Miguel and Robbie over Tori,
Mm-hmm.
and Daniel will always pick Sam and probably Miguel and Robbie before Tori.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I completely agree with you that the season, and I like that Tori was building the connections with Sam and Miyagi-Do, but you could have still had her connecting with Sam, but you still could have had those moments, even just some moments
Mm-hmm.
where Daniel chooses Sam over Tori and Johnny chooses Devin or Miguel and Robbie, and it's like, yeah, we it's the right, like, obviously, Daniel's gonna choose his daughter, but like to see Tori like kind of like, oh, okay, like, yeah, like there's none of these senseis would choose me first or
Mm-hmm.
second, and I'm lucky if I'm third. Oh, because Daniel will freaking choose Anthony before, you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And then because also Tori was, there the least.
Mm-hmm.
Johnny, they all have the relationship. So yeah, I think I said, and I actually clipped out a video from a live stream where I said I don't think Tori going back to Kreese was necessarily like a bad thing for the story, and I think it made sense. Like, I get it, but I do think that there could have been more of a setup for it.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like, just set that up more, because it's not until episode 5 where we get those doubts.
Right.
Where Kreese comes to her and her mom dies and she's all alone. But if you started to sprinkle that in a little bit earlier and kind of set it up, then like we'd actually understand where it's coming from. But I mean, here's why I think they did it. Here's why I think they did it, but I don't really agree with this. They wanted it to be a shock.
Right.
Like, they didn't want to like really like give those hints, because they wanted that moment when she walks out to be like, what?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think.
Right. Yeah. And it feels like the whole point was, let's build up. See, she's friends with Sam now. They've worked through everything. Everything's good. Everything's good. Something shocking happened that shifts her the other way. And so it's all in kind of one swoop. And so you get why they would do that. You can see the logic on paper of what they're trying to do, making it shocking, and what is something that's dramatic enough that will cause someone to very radically change. Death will do that.
Sure.
But when you also play it like that, it also starts to feel manipulative rather than earned, because you are going, let's kill someone so she rejoins Cobra Kai. Oh, well, that's weird. As opposed to, once again, you have a series of small things that just create that open loop in her mind, that insecurity
Little
in her
moments.
mind, that little things that they are still, like, they're resolving all this other stuff. Of course, they're good friends. They're not supervillains, but I'm always going to be third. I'm never going to be number one.
Yeah, even like something as simple as like Daniel talking to Sam, saying like, "I'm so proud of you. Like you're doing so good." And then in the same shot, you see Miguel and Robbie talking to Johnny, "I'm so proud of you." And then you see Tori by herself, kind of just like awkward. Even something as little as that would like, you would see her uncomfortable to be there. But
and then you cut whenever you have Kreese return. He says, "I know that you've made these choices, but I'm still so proud of you." And so you have him say the thing that she's yearning from these other people. She's mad at him, doesn't want to join him. But the first thing that he says is like in all of this, I'm proud of you and what you've been able to do. Maybe I made mistakes, but I'm proud of you. Ooh. And all of a sudden, the guy that in her mind is bad has now given her the thing that she longs for, that affirmation. And
that's brilliant.
And it's like it's not that Daniel or Johnny overtly did anything wrong, but we all have our natural people that we lean towards. They have a longer history with these other people, a deeper emotional connection, and they want to do good by Tori. They want to be like, they're not in any way opposed to her, but Kreese is the one that personally has that connection and gives her that thing that they will never as naturally and organically give to her.
Okay.
Yeah, see,
I'm so down with that.
This is all they needed to do was hire me and you. Just bring us in, like, all right, here's the scripts that we got for you. Like, can you read through these and what's missing? Like, okay. And maybe they let us see it 2 months early when they're going to do reshoots of like a month out. Like, what do we need to do? Like, okay, in episode 1, at this moment, just do a little reshoot.
Yeah.
Where Daniel congratulates Sam and says he's so proud of her while Tori's in the background. Episode 2, Miguel says he's proud of, or Johnny says he's proud of Miguel, and Tori's in the background. And then just add this one line with Kreese, like, just so you know, I'm so proud of you. Just add these little all of a sudden we fix this whole deal. We make it feel earned. If only they had reached out sooner or at all. Since they haven't
I know,
reached out
literally.
at all.
No. I know they should have reached out sooner.
Yeah.
No, but you're right. Just
You
those
guys still
little
have a
things.
chance for parts 2 and 3. We're available. We can just fly us out. We will resolve the issues.
We'll go to Spain.
Yeah, we got it. We'll be on set. Well, I guess they've already filmed it. We will do whatever you need to do.
We'll CG whatever we got.
Yeah. I got a green screen right over here. If you need me to do the reshoots.
Quick, put on a wig. You'll play Tori. I'll play Kreese. We'll act out the scene again.
These ideas keep getting better and better.
Oh man, but no, I think exactly what you said, and the reason why I think you're so right is because after that conversation with Kreese, she hates him even more.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like, I don't see any reason why you would want to go back with him after that conversation. But as you said, if he gave her some of the validation that she wasn't getting, maybe she would have been like resistant. But like just like Peyton's a great actor. You could see some conflict within her, you know, kind of like you got Vader behind you, Vader trying to get Luke to come over. And it's like, you see the conflict within her, but then ultimately she says, no, like, they're my friends. Like, I'm going to be loyal to them. And then maybe you do something else in that episode where it's like, you know, something. And then it makes the moment hit harder. I also think
earned. It both feels like that's what I felt like some of the earlier seasons just did a better job with, of like those little steps all along the way. You know, even like season 1, watching Miguel go from bullied kid to kid with confidence to becoming the bully, to becoming this aggressive person. You see the steps, you see the little moments where this mindset combined with what he's observing triggers him and makes him overreact. That cause it like that. And this felt like we're just going to do the last piece all at once, rather than the steps all along the way, the setup that earns the payoff.
For sure. Even with Robbie, you know, joining Cobra Kai in season 3, there was so much like, you know, set up to that with like Daniel and Johnny abandoning him being in juvie. I mean, his development was incredible. And it happened very quickly. And I mean, this is something that like, I know we were talking about the fact that like it just happens quickly, but the first thing that I thought of was, what about her brother? Her little brother, right. She just leaves him to go to a tournament. Like, what about her mom's funeral? And then, like, you know, people brought up good points. Like, nobody was, like, checking up on her. Like, if I was Robbie, right? If I was her boyfriend and her mother died, I would say, screw a tournament. I'm going to be there for this person that I care about. And, like, they all just left her. They all, for all they knew, she was back in America crying. Maybe she could have freaking like done something to herself. Like, who knows? I mean, her mom just died. She has nobody, no support. And they all left her. There was no like we should check up on her. Everyone left.
Yeah. There's been wait, doesn't she have like a family member back home? Like, what
She's her brother, her little brother.
Just go to the pool for the next 2 weeks.
No, like literally. No, I think like when the mom died, she said she was on the phone and she was like, yeah, he's at a sleepover or something with his friend, but like, you know, like, what is he gonna be at his, like, I don't know. I think well, you know, what happens is the moment where Tori leaves Miyagi-Do after being denied captain or you know, after that whole thing, then boom, we go right into Barcelona. Like, we don't even know how many days would you guess it's been? Because it cuts right away. It's like, boom, Sam and Robbie are captains. Now we're in Barcelona, but like we don't really know like how much time has passed. It's
No.
it's like it was cool editing, but it's also like, oh wow, okay, now we're here.
Right, like that's where you immediately realize, okay, so like the setup here is this is to pick the team, and part 2 is the tournament. Like we're there. I mean, I don't know, because it felt like obviously there has to be a significant chunk of time there, because, if you pick the team and then you have to get everyone ready, prepared, like there's stuff that happens between all of that and just simply traveling to get there. So I don't know if it's a week or whatever it is, but yeah.
Time is non-existent in the Miyagi verse.
So you start to play out like the time frame of how much time has actually passed over the last 2 or 3 seasons versus how much Kenny has aged. It's like, what is this middle school kid on human growth hormones? He's a foot taller after 3 months. Like, what's going on here?
No, literally.
It's like he walks up and he's like taller than all these guys. he's getting much bigger, and they're like, "Yeah, we just started this 2 months ago." What? What's the
God.
Problem with doing a TV show with actual middle schoolers that in the time frame 6 months, a year has passed. For them, 3-4 years have passed.
Yeah. It's like in the beginning, it's like, Wapusso, and then it's like, Wapusso.
Right. With even being like, Sam is almost 30 years old in real life now.
It's crazy. I mean, she looks great. She still looks like she could play a high schooler. It's crazy. Okay, I do want to ask you a question, because I have something that I want to bring to you, and I want to talk about this, because in your review, you said, and I don't want to like you can reword it, but I think you said, or why don't you explain, with season 5, should the show have ended at season 5?
If like we haven't seen these next 2 things, maybe they'll pull something together that to me makes me go, oh wow, that's it right there. I get what you're doing here. I absolutely feel like with what feels like the most organic conclusion to the arcs for all of our main characters, the Cobra Kai Miyagi-Do rivalry, Johnny Daniel, I very much feel like you do minor rewrites, and season 5 is a very satisfying conclusion to the show. I mean, if I was like to actually play it out a little bit even differently in my mind, I potentially would have reworked seasons 4 and 5 so the tournament closed it out, rather than like almost like corporate espionage in season 5, where it's like, this is getting pretty wild. I would maybe reworked it a little bit to do something to where maybe the tournament closes out, that stretches a little bit longer, and that closes out season 5. And so then, I don't know, something like that. But that sort of, Terry Silver is defeated. Tori realizes that this aggressiveness isn't the right way. Johnny is like becoming an actual dad, not just in the sense that he got someone pregnant, but he's actually just becoming a better version of himself. They've like all of that feels like that's everything I cared about at the beginning of the show. You've resolved it. And then you introduced, but there's a world tournament. For me, that feels like you introduced something so we can do another season, but you introduced a thing to me that is dramatically less interesting than everything that's come before. These classic stories about children that need fathers, they need mentors, bullies, being bullied. All of that is what I'm drawn towards in Karate Kid, Cobra Kai. The tension between Daniel and Johnny going back decades, and all of that has been resolved. So now you're introducing a world tournament, trying to get into college, trying to get sponsorships, and I go, none of that is as interesting as all of this stuff that you just finished. That's what I mean by it. So in that regard. And if that means that, I mean, they've been talking about doing these spin-offs. If they've got like, okay, we finished this, so then now we do Eagle Fang or whatever. Johnny starts up his dojo for Eagle Fang or whatever. Like, okay, whatever the spin-off is, I'm not opposed to any of that. But the journey of this show, the conflict started at the beginning, was resolved by the end of season 5. All of them.
Yeah.
Or could have been. Like Kreese breaking out of prison. Like, you just resolve it to where he leaves prison and he goes, what have I been doing? And like, he just has this moment of like, why am I still fighting the Vietnam War? Like, what is this? And then maybe he calms down and he becomes like an actual normal father figure to Tori that's not trying to get her to win the Vietnam War. Like,
yeah.
Anyway, that was a long answer to your question.
No, but you know what? I'm glad you. I mean, I watched your video where you were explaining a lot of your thoughts, but I'm glad you broke it down again. So now it's fresh. I do understand a lot of what you're saying, and the writers have specifically stated that they wanted to end season 5 in a way that felt like it was conclusive, because they wanted it to be like season 6. They think they're safe, but they're really not. And that's why the first episode is called Peacetime in the Valley.
Yeah.
Now, here's where my, like, okay, maybe, like, I it's not that, like, I don't like it. I like it. But for me personally, and maybe some others would feel the same, if season 5 was the second to last season, and like, you know, like after season 5, like we know season 6 is the last season, especially after setting up the world tournament, like we knew we were going to go to this world tournament in season 6 because that's what they set up in season 5. Like, but as we were talking about before, when Terry gets arrested, they take down Cobra Kai. There's no reason to enter this world tournament.
Right.
So I think that maybe it would have been more exciting. And I don't want to look, these guys are brilliant writers, so I don't want to say maybe my ideas would be better, but I don't know. I feel like it would have been cool if season 5 ended where Terry did not get arrested, Cobra Kai did not get taken down, and the way they end season 5 is like, this world tournament, the stakes are higher than ever. Terry is at his peak right now, and if he wins this, it's like Palpatine building like a freaking 1,000 Star Destroyers. We cannot let it happen. And, you know, Cobra Kai's in this tournament now. We know that, but are Kreese and Kim Da-eun going to expand Cobra Kai all over the world? I don't think so. You really felt it with Terry. Like, I mean, this guy has so many resources, the money. So I feel like if we ended season 5, rather than okay, maybe you bring Tori back to the good side. Maybe you bring Miguel and Robbie together and Kenny's back. And you do this thing where you have all the kids in the dojo, and then Terry and Kim and whatever go to South Korea. But Cobra Kai is at its highest point right now, and the stakes are there, because when we go to South Korea and we see Kreese and Kim Da-eun, it's sure, they're bad, but if they win this tournament, I don't know what they
who cares?
Accomplish. Who cares?
We did not know this tournament existed until 2 weeks
Here's
ago.
A trophy.
Who cares?
Here's a trophy. But you know what I'm saying? That, I feel like that's so important in storytelling. Is if the bad guys win, what happens? But let me ask you: if Kreese and Kim Da-eun and Cobra Kai, if they win the tournament, what happens? They get a trophy. I don't think Kreese has the money to open up dojos all over the world, unlike Terry, who actually was gonna expand. So it's I think that's been the biggest thing with me is the stakes. And I do think that like I do think that this final season, like I'm really happy we're getting this season, and I think there is a lot that they still can do, and that I'm really happy like with like it feels like the last season. I got to be honest, like last season didn't feel like the last season because they weren't writing it to be the last season. This one, like with Kyler and Brooks, I love that, man. Like I love that. You know, some people were like, "Oh, they didn't deserve a redemption." It's not like they like went out and like said, "Hey, Miguel, I'm so sorry for hurting you." Like, no, like they were at this college party and like, you know, they all just got along, and you saw this like side where the bully was getting bullied. Like, I thought it really worked, and I felt, and for me, it's like if we never like, I honestly. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I don't need to see Kyler again. I love Kyler. I think he's so funny, but they wrapped his story. Like Johnny going to get a house for his family, that feels like we're heading towards the end. Like all these things, Daniel saying this is my last dance with karate. It feels like we're going to the end, which I feel like we had in season 5. So that's why I feel like season 6 is necessary. Sorry, I was kind of going all over.
Well, I mean, I think some of it is also, you know, we knew during season 5 it wasn't the end, and so then it both didn't feel like the end. You could see the points in time where they're like, this is where we're going next. They're still setting things up. That's what I also mean where if they hadn't planned on doing season 6, the rewrite to make season 5 feel more definitive, like a conclusion. You know, you don't introduce the tournament. You don't like you just leave that out, and instead you have, you know, subplots about, you know, you design it to have the epilogues and everything in that season to where you close it out. But you know, I don't know. I just when you design a show that's all about Miyagi-Do versus Cobra Kai, and you destroy Cobra Kai in the Valley at the end of season 5.
Yeah.
And those two guys are friends, and Tori is friends, and Robbie and Miguel are friends, and Johnny is calming down. And I mean, it's like even in this season where once again we have to do an episode where like Johnny learns the lesson that you have to get a job. Like what?
I mean, look, that was brilliant. Him working at LaRusso was some of the funniest stuff. Yeah. That was so funny.
But having him have to learn the lesson again, it's like we already did he talked to the pawn shop guy and learned, this is what it means to be a grown up. Like, that's the stuff to me where it's kind of like it feels a little bit like we're having to revert people's character arcs in order for this season to work, or, you know, backing things up, or we're once again Daniel and Johnny can't get along and they don't know how to train together, and it's like, yeah. I mean, we've kind of been doing that thing for the last 3 seasons. Like, we keep going to hitting this beat. We keep hitting this note.
Yeah, yeah. I know what you're saying. I do think that Johnny working out LaRusso was freaking brilliant. I thought that was hilarious. I do, but
I think that it's a funny idea, especially the way that it played out. And so, like, even if that was kind of the, you know, I'm getting married, Daniel, can I get a job? And you play it out a little bit, not as like another lesson that he needs to learn where we repeat the thing. Just in the first episode, it's pieced like, hey man, while we're building this, can I like almost have like the humble Johnny as opposed to like the bravado Johnny? It because then it feels like a continuation of him growing and learning, and then he starts working there, and of course you have Johnny is still Johnny comes out of it, and how bad of an idea this kind of is if you think about it starts to come into play of like, there's a power dynamic of Daniel being Johnny's boss. That's never going to be a good idea long term.
Well, yeah, and I get what you mean about the job thing, because that's always been a thing for me. Like, you know, season 1, he was working as a repairman. Then he got fired in the first episode. Then he opened up Cobra Kai. He got the money from Sid. And, you know, we saw he had students in seasons 1 and 2. So boom, that's how you're making a living. He was unemployed in seasons 3 and 4. And I mean, look, he he wasn't making that much dough from from the Cobra Kai dojo. So then in season
Right.
5, he got the Uber gig for like a day, and
Right.
then so yeah, like hopefully he gets like a consistent job, like because even though I know the show like sometimes doesn't deal with like the realistic things, like even like Kreese, like you know where's Kreese living? Like, like I don't know. Like I feel like Johnny having a job is kind of important. I feel like that's
Right.
something that.
Some sort of explanation. And when you don't do anything to progress his mature, like, well, I mean, you've done a lot to progress his maturity, but like, no, seriously, how is he paying his bills? He
I know,
lives
literally.
in the LA area. Do you know how expensive that is? And like, he can't hold a job doing rideshare. And like, what? How is he paying for anything? Like,
Yeah,
that's a real question. And like
it's legitimate. It's
like
legitimate.
it's like you're watching a comedy. It's not supposed to be super grounded, realistic, but there's always that line. At what point in time do you go, "Hey, wait a minute, this doesn't add up"? Hey, wait, come on, like, no, seriously, what is he?
Yeah,
Where does his money come from? When you have that as a recurring plot point, and him doing things to get money to be able to do things, you've also just introduced the world of Johnny's financial troubles matter. And so it's some of that stuff of like, I mean, you have to spend some time having a legitimate answer to a legitimate question.
for sure, for sure. Is there anything else? I mean, look, I know we have like a ton. There's still a ton we haven't talked about, but like, anything big about the first 5 episodes that you want to really quickly cover?
Doing an episode about Johnny doing a sleepover with a bunch of underage girls was another one of those ideas they probably should have sat me down to go, hey guys, stop and think about what you just turned Johnny into. That's weird, creepy behavior. He's in the basement of someone's house without their parents there with a bunch of underage girls. What are you thinking?
But it's Johnny, and he's a
It
girl. He's a girl dad. I do like that they're like kind of setting him up like having a girl, like
Yes.
with Devin and with Tori and Sam. Like I I'm excited for that. I'm excited for him to have a little baby Lawrence. I think that should be fun. But yeah. Well, dude, the best line is like, he's like, I think Sam was like you're gonna host a sleepover, and he's like, yeah, like don't worry, I know how to do this. I have cookies and tampons and everything. It's like it's so funny. And then wait, then there was one other part where Sam was like, I thought you were Miyagi-Do now. And Johnny's like, I am Miyagi-Do. You see, we're in the house with air conditioning and chocolates and pillows and everything. It's like so like I mean the writing like the writing for Johnny is just always like top notch. The only time though that I actually disliked Johnny was in episode 5 when he was telling Daniel like Tori should have fought. I was like,
Yeah.
Johnny, get the heck out of here. You know, it's one thing if Tori's going through a breakup or something.
Yeah.
Her mom just died. Like, I get that's you, but like, I completely disagree. Like, it is not like, not at the expense of Sam. Like, poor
Right.
Sam is gonna like take, Tori's like freaking anger about her mother dying. You know what I mean?
Well, so I saw a bunch of people debating that in the comment section of like who was right and who was wrong. I was like, that I can't imagine any scenario where you could argue that Johnny was in the right there, because there was no reason that this had to be resolved in that moment. Like Johnny's like, when my dad, mom did that, all I wanted to do was fight. Like,
Yeah. What?
oh, right, okay.
No.
I understand that as a sentiment for a phase of life that you just have a lot of aggression when you're hurting.
Yeah.
You just want to let it out. That's not the same thing as right now I want to go punch someone.
Yeah.
And adding that on top of, this is a group thing. We're making an actual decision based off of this. We're not talking about, Tori, you got a lot in you that you need to work through. We are fine to do that tomorrow. But right now, we're trying to make a decision. Like, they're not the same thing. And also, the idea that in any scenario, a responsible adult that like it's a comedy show, but this is the drama side. This is the side where you have to like have humans behave like real humans and earn things. You're in a moment where she did not disclose something really important, and she is not like she's obviously emotionally compromised. You can look at her and go, well, something's wrong with her. and everyone else just learned this thing that's really important about you. Obviously, this is affecting you most, but this affects everyone. Everyone has an emotional reaction to death, and the idea that right now we have to do this, or else you're withholding her grief process. That's not true. That's not responsible. No one would continue. I have to like. You always put your daughter first. Like, hey,
No.
Tori, if you want to come back tomorrow, we'll redo this. We're like, we're not trying to exclude you, but right now, this is too emotionally charged for, in any responsible sense, us to continue with this. If you just want to stay and fight someone, I'm sure someone here will fight you. But we're not gonna like. It's just like it felt so like we're gonna treat Johnny's irresponsible side as a legitimate method of dealing with grief. Like, no, like this is you can't like equate Johnny threw some kids in a cement truck as part of their training. Like, yeah, Johnny, and then also like, yeah, I mean, she's losing it. She's acting so unbelievably fractured right now that she didn't even talk to anyone. She showed up looking crazy. And in that, we're going to like, yeah, let's just let it out on Sam. Like, that's totally responsible. That's totally normal.
Yeah, I mean, okay, I completely disagreed with Johnny, but at the same time, though, I don't think it was like super out of character for him, because like this is a situation we'd never seen him in before. So, now we're finding out, okay, if his mother died, maybe he did want to punch someone. So he's obviously in the wrong, though. So I'm hoping that in the future, rather than just glossing over this, I hope he acknowledges like I'm sorry about like not sticking up for you, Daniel, like in that moment, or Tori, like, like it wasn't right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's crazy. I think there were two things.
Okay.
Mike Barnes is the first thing.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Really quickly.
Yes.
What were your thoughts on Mike?
That's not what I would have liked them to have done with the character.
Oh, really?
Well, I mean, it's a couple of different things. They bring him in, and I don't know. I think it's a character because they can't give him like a season arc or whatever reason that they're having to do the single episodes, that you have to throw too much into one episode. So you're trying to like you want to see a little bit of that spicy Mike, and like who can we have him fight? Oh, we haven't seen him fight Johnny before. And so there's like things in that's fun. And the next, fought Mike Barnes last. Like there's like those bits that are really good. It's great to see him. I'm glad that he got an episode. But like even just the simple logic of we need to pick our best people, and Mike Barnes shows up and he's like, run into the woods with flags and come back. What? How is that remote? Like, run around with flags, and whoever can grab the flags gets to be on the team, or whatever it was. And go, that's not remotely a good test to see. Like, there's like no correlation between this and what you're going to do at this. What on earth is this? What are you talking about? And you're not, like, what? It's some of that's just like the simple logic of like capture the flag as a way to determine who's good at karate. Like what? Yeah. But so some of that stuff that I just kind of, I don't know what you could have done. I don't know what it would have looked like that would have. I don't know. Just felt like a strange. I get why they did it. Like, there's not really a plot for them. So we're trying to pick the team. These two guys have their biases, so let's bring someone in. And you go, that does make sense. I guess maybe it's just the specific way that they handled the episode, the way that they had him decide things. I was just like, this is odd. and it just feels like, maybe it's just all of that manufactured conflict where Johnny is trying so hard to get Devin in so that he's distracting Mike so Mike doesn't see what Devin did. That all that overcooked stuff to me.
Yeah.
It was kind of, it was a lot of that. So I don't know, like I feel bad that I'm always being, negative about it because it doesn't fully capture the vibe. And not only people like, you must not be a real fan because all you're being is negative. It's like, that's missing the, like, when I say I like the characters, you know what that means. And you say I like the humor, you know what that means. When I say that I like the fights, you know what that means. Why was I frustrated by the story? Well, I have to unpack all of that.
You have to explain it, yeah.
Yeah, that's the side to it. Like, Johnny's funny. I don't have to say anything beyond that. You know what that means. And so then it's like, I like seeing Mike. It's fun to catch up with him a little bit, but at the same time, like the way they used him, the way that something went down was like, I don't know. That's just not necessarily what I would have done.
Yeah. So, okay. So I completely get what you're saying. And I think like with our discussion, even like talking about Tori, instead of just saying Tori's switch was too quick, we literally talked about how it could have been done differently. So with Mike, and I gotta be honest, that's why I like talking to, other people and other fans and talking to you about this. Cause like you're opening my perspective. I didn't watch the Mike Barnes episode and think like, oh, these games are, I mean, like now you're kind of opening my eyes and thinking like, okay, maybe they are a little ridiculous. Like capture the chicken and, like all that. But, I think, and I want to hear your thoughts on this.
That's sometimes these things where I've like had to select people for things, and so when you've had to do it, you start to think they're like, wait a minute, these rules don't make any sense. This doesn't what? That's not fair. Why would you decide it this way?
Yeah, well, and especially when someone like Hawk isn't gonna get chosen, then it's like it's kind of ridiculous. Like at the end of the day, I don't care. Like it's kind of like you're doing tryouts for the basketball team and everybody has to make a free throw. And then you have the worst kid makes the free throw and the best kid just one time misses the free throw. You're not going to put the worst kid just because he made that one free throw.
Right.
It's like, this is a season that we have to prepare for,
Well, that's kind of like on some of these shows where they do eliminations on these reality shows, and the elimination is based off of whoever does the worst in each week is out. So you're not really determining who's the best. You're just seeing who never was the worst. Those aren't the same thing. And so then you have someone that everyone can acknowledge is dramatically better than all these other people, but they have one bad week. They trip up on one thing and they're eliminated. And you have this deal where Hawk is eliminated because Dimitri was mad at him and Hawk was trying to be his, like, why on earth, like another one, manufactured conflict. Hawk tells him right before, like, hey man, while we're about to do this big thing that's important, by the way, I'm not going to do that. This is why that's happening. Well, now I'm mad at you. Like, that's not the best timing to communicate that information.
Yeah. And I also think it was like the fact that Barnes was like, it's too close to call with the four of you. Hawk is like miles above all of them. So that I did not find believable that like, I did it. Do you watch basketball?
I can't watch any sports because I'm too busy watching movies for rankings.
Okay. Well, here's like the analogy that I use. Okay. Right. It's like Hawk is like LeBron James and he's competing for a spot in the
Spaceballs.
Yeah, and he's competing in the spot for the Olympics next to freaking like Daffy Duck and freaking like whatever. Like,
I'm tracking with this now that we're in Spaceballs terminology.
Now I'm trying to use
Space Jam. Spaceballs is Star Wars. It's like Spaceballs. Wait, that's not right. There are balls in Space Jam, but Spaceballs is something very different.
Space Jam. No, you said it. I was like going with it, but you know what I mean. It's like Hawk was like LeBron, and these other guys are nowhere near him, and he like it was still like Hawk's gotta prove himself, and I think so now in terms of like what could they have done, I mean, because also, and like this is stuff that like I'm just thinking about right now. Like you're like talking to you is opening my mind up. You know, Barnes has that scene. Do you remember when they released that little clip? Like the Sekai Taikai is intense, it's deadly. You know, he's like when he's first talking to them,
Mm-hmm.
and then the stuff that follows doesn't really. I mean, they're capturing chickens and playing capture the flag. It doesn't live up to what he was saying about people have died in this thing.
Yeah.
Now, what they could have done was do what Johnny was like doing in season 2, putting the kids in the cement truck and freaking like having them in season 1. They were in the junkyard walking over like broken glass, like, you know, put them in like really dangerous scenarios, and where you feel like, holy crap, this is intense, this is serious, there's like some blood, like rather than just fun games, like, you know, fun like elimination. It kind of felt like summer camp in a way. It didn't feel like they were getting ready for the world tournament. Like it felt like I could have been in there. Oh, I love capture the flag.
Right.
You know, like,
yeah. I mean that was kind of the. I don't know. There's some of those things that, you know, you get caught up on. Maybe it's a silly detail, but there's a reason that is frustrating. Of like, right, like you're trying to pick the people. This is not the most intense thing that these people have had to do, and it doesn't feel like there's a 1-to-1 correlation. Like on the simple fact, you kind of go in the tournament, you're gonna have to this. Okay.
Yes.
So then.
Capture the chicken because it'll tie into
to this other thing, or you know, you're gonna have to break through ice. So Daniel teaches them on how to break through blocks of ice, and then they see who can break through the most. Like all the things that would have some correlation direct, as opposed to you have flags on you and grab as many flags as you can.
Yeah,
there's just like I just hear that and I go, what does that have anything to do with anything? Like you're not even using karate.
Well, yeah, because it's also like, I mean, the whole idea is like fight for the flag. It's kind of the same thing as to capture the flag. You know, they're doing a karate match with no refs. Like, you know, it was kind of the same purpose. And yeah, you would think like for Mike Barnes coming back, it would have been a little more like, I don't know, something like. Now that I'm picturing, I could picture like him like really putting them like, especially because he was in that bad boy mindset.
Yeah.
Something really like intense.
Right.
Life threatening almost.
Right. So once
And,
again, they just needed to bring us in to give them these tips in advance.
Yeah.
Where all of this came from.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's easier to see the product and then to kind of like look at what could have been done. You know, they had to come up with all this from scratch. But yeah, they could have brought us the scripts and let us review them. You know,
it's just baffling that they didn't.
It's almost as shocking as Tori going back to Cobra Kai.
Right. We're right here. We've talked about this show before. We've made it very clear that we know how to fine tune things and fix them. And they didn't reach out. What were they thinking?
A darn shame. And okay, last thing.
Okay.
Because we didn't address it, is South Korea. I just want to ask you on your thoughts about Kreese, Kim Da-eun, the new students, and the new Cobra Kai, Kim Sung-young. Like that was a whole storyline that we didn't really get to talk about that. So what were your thoughts on that?
Yeah. I mean,
I love how every time it's like every time.
That's the frustrating thing. Once again, I enjoy being with the characters. I enjoy the humor. I enjoy the action. But the specific things they did just was, a lot of it was peculiar. So like when you have like, all right, Kreese, go find a snake. I lost my knife 50 years ago. Go find my knife. And so he's like 80-year-old man on a quest in Korea, battling an actual snake, an actual cobra. Like, this is getting very cartoonish. I liked, the Korean team. Some interesting stuff. There's some dynamics there. I think the inherent problem you run into on a show like this is that we're multiple seasons invested into every other character,
Yeah.
and we're in the final season. And so when you're introducing new characters at a point in time when we feel like we're closing out arcs, there's kind of a natural inclination to be like, well, I want to get back to the other ones, like with the
Yeah.
people I know. I want to see where that's going. Like, where is Miguel trying to go to college? Did he get in? I'm multiple seasons invested into that, and you're trying to convince me to care about these new characters, and like I'm interested enough, but they're also you created a scenario where off quite literally on the other end of the world, you're introducing a character that is only there to be a villain to the characters I care about, and a little bit of a something to Kreese, but it's so detached.
Yeah.
It's literally on the other side of the planet.
Like, it's not affecting them at
All.
all. They
And
don't.
They
They
don't
know
what's
what's going
happening.
on.
They don't know that they're
Yeah.
there. They don't know they exist. So you're inventing a rivalry for characters that don't know each other.
Know anything? Yeah.
It's a tough it's a tough deal. In particular, if you're doing all of this and then there's a 4-month gap before I even see the follow up when they even meet.
Yeah. That's the thing, because if it was all released together, it's like then boom, they meet each other, and then rivalry, we see it. Yeah, I get what you're saying, and I think that Quan, I think, was badass. He was played by a martial artist.
Yeah.
Cool dude. But I think we could have stayed with him a bit more just to get a little bit more invested in him. So like maybe you explore him a little bit more. So there's I don't know, because like, I mean, Cobra Kai and shows in general, you can introduce new characters and get people to be invested in one episode or through a few scenes. And I don't know if we got necessarily enough of that. It's so funny because I see all the comments online. Everybody's like, oh, yo, Robbie versus Quan, Miguel versus Quan, Dimitri versus Quan. It's everybody versus Quan because we don't know anybody else.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's everyone versus, obviously there's Tori, but like, you know what I mean? It's like everybody versus Quan and Tori. And then like, you know, for now, we don't know anybody else.
I mean, I think it's the whole problem with kind of my central to all of this to me is that if you launch this as final season and you introduce this gigantic other global element to the show, it's been a show about the Valley all along.
Yeah.
And at the end of the last season, you went actually global. And so now all of a sudden we're having to like do this, but all of our characters besides Kreese that we've really known from the beginning are still Valley people. They're in the Valley. They're thinking about the Valley. And so you're just having to like build up all this momentum over here, and it's so detached. Because even like these rivalries, like, who's going to fight him? Who's going to fight him? I mean, they've never even met each other, so it's not even like it's just a theoretical Korean guy that knows really good martial arts. Like there's no personal stakes to it. Whereas all of everything we talked about before, where you get to these tournaments and who wins, who gets on the team, it's gut-wrenching because one person, it's a big victory for their character arc. The other, it's a big setback for their character arc. And then you set up a rivalry where it's just guy that's just set up to be rival, but he's not part of this bigger like story. That's the problem when you try and set up this whole other thing at the very end. Once again, going back to maybe what I was saying before of like, maybe this should have been the spin-off show that whoever runs with it, like Johnny goes, my future's actually got to do Eagle Frank's going to win on the global side, whatever it is, whatever that story is. And then you make these two main sets of characters, Korea, California, and then they meet in the turn. Like, I don't know, but like the rules, the global side to it is built into it rather than feeling just so separated and detached, and we're setting them up with very little screen time, and even the time we do give them, it's like I kind of just want to get back to my characters that I know, because this is the end of their story, but you're starting this story over here, and I can't be as invested in it.
I get what you're saying. I think that at least for me personally, I was really looking forward to seeing this side, the South Korea students, because I knew they were going to introduce like real martial artists and
Yeah.
really make them formidable. Like these are Sensei Kim students. Um, I think there was a lot of promise there. And then, but maybe if you had Miyagi-Do aware Cobra Kai's in the tournament, like who are their students, and
Right.
like I don't know if both sides were aware of each other. Maybe they don't meet until the tournament, but I would have been okay with like this still, these two separate sides of the world kind of training, whatever. But yeah, I think maybe like
Some
my
connective
biggest thing,
tissue.
some connective tissue where they're both aware of each other and there's something. So when we get to the tournament, it's not that random.
So
Kind of like we've been waiting for this.
So they overtly referenced on multiple occasions "Best of the Best," which is a series of movies. The first one is a tournament film. It is very derivative of Karate Kid, except with grown-ups. And it is these two separate. You're tracking with you're following the American team. Can they defeat the Korean team? And so you're seeing the training over there. They're overtly, they reference it in the show directly so that you know the influence that they're pulling from. The difference is that they establish that the star of the movie has a very personal stake with the leader of the other team. And that's the big question. Will he be emotionally compromised? What will he do in this final fight? And so they don't try and really build out the characters of the Korean team in the movie, but they represent something, and there's a personal connection, and there's a side to it of the American team is constantly like, you're going to have to face this person in this thing. You need to be able to do this. They're aware of them, and they're training to defeat that specific person.
Yeah.
Once again, contrasted with they don't even know they exist.
And they see Quan, who we all see Quan, and we're like, this is going to be the guy. They have no clue.
Yeah, they have no clue.
That's the guy.
And so that's the exact, so in Best of the Best, basically the setup is the lead guy of the Korean team killed the brother of the American team in a tournament. And he watched his brother die. And so now, and ironically, the two actors are actually brothers.
Oh, shoot.
And so then it's like, is this guy here to get revenge in a match, or is he here to fight for the American team? And so there's a personal connection there, and and that was lacking. And all you had to do is rip off the movie that you're ripping off.
For sure.
Just all they needed to do is ask Johnny for his advice on what they need to do based on the best of the best, and he could have been like, well, in the script, guys, this is what just remember it, and now we're both brothers. Remember the end of the movie. That's what we got to do with this. But you got to, Johnny.
No, literally.
That's my impression of Johnny. That's my impression of everybody. They talk like this.
Johnny
I'm great at impressions.
Johnny could have wrote the season 6 script with us.
And then in the spinoff, Miguel is fighting in an underground tournament in Las Vegas, and he gets killed, and therefore Johnny's out for revenge, and he's running around with a shotgun blowing guys' heads off.
I'd watch that. That'd be pretty cool.
These ideas keep getting better and better.
Oh yeah, you got it. Cobra Kai guys, sign us up. But yeah, okay. So
what are we talking about?
Cobra Kai. I think that yeah, so to recap that, I feel what could have enhanced that, as you said, some sort of connective tissue, where maybe they never meet before, but like they're both aware of each other. Like they both know Cobra Kai is going to be in this tournament. Miyagi-Do's going to be in this tournament. We got to take them down. Like, and then like even Kreese says to Quan, their best fighter, Miguel Diaz. He's ruthless, but you can take him. Like, just like something that it's like, and then when you have that episode 5 where they come face to face, then it's
means
like
something.
it means something, and it's like
not just a Tori reveal. It's like, oh, they're finally seeing each other,
finally-
and Tori's with them, and you
Dude,
spend the whole season with Tori.
bro,
It's like you're gonna have to face this person, Tori. You're gonna have to do this with this person, and like, and then you see her standing next to them. All of a sudden, it's a personal betrayal. It's like connected. Once again, they just needed to call us. They needed to call us.
Dude, that's so brilliant though. It's like Miguel and Quan facing off. It's like I've only heard about you. I've heard, it's like sports teams, like I heard you're the best of this team and I'm going to take you down. There's something. And then yeah, when Tori joins, then you can like have the dynamic of how does she fit in with this new squad who we already knew. However, we only know Quan. Sure, there was Yoon who was introduced very, very briefly. I feel like they could have done, you don't, I understand that the kids in America are more important, but I feel like you could have had like maybe like the top 3 or 4 students from Sensei Kim's dojo, at least give some other kids some lines, just kind of like, let us know a few more characters. That way, when we get to the tournament, it's a bit more like, oh, like Sam could take on her, Tori could take on him, like Robbie could take, like, rather than just Quan. Dude,
Yeah,
I'm getting like chills, like thinking about the fact of like if we
could have done.
What it could have been if we no, but like I'm so serious. Like if these first 5 episodes were setting up a rivalry between these dojos and them seeing each other for the first time and then Kreese saying, let the games begin. It's like, I mean, how many, like, I don't know, think of like your favorite show or movie, right? And you have those, the 2 villains or whatever, like who like, I mean, let's say Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader, right? Technically they don't even interact until Empire Strikes Back. So it's like we're waiting for that interaction, and there's like that rivalry being built with like Darth Vader killing Ben, and like it's like you got to go kill Vader. Like it's like it's being set up so when it gets there, it's like holy shit. It's like rather than them just seeing each other and it looks cool, but it's like it's like if I were like it's like when I'm playing basketball. AAU basketball and I see the other team, it's like they look intimidating, but like that's it. There's no personal like I don't know who the best player is. There's no personal like thing for me. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean just kind of close it out because I got to get going.
Yeah.
That's the frustration with this season, that there's just a lot of things where it feels like whether they needed more episodes to do this level of a plot. Like if you didn't want to end it where I felt was the most natural ending, you might have needed more time to be able to properly do a whole world tournament and set up a new set of characters, a set of rivalries. But even so, there's just like little tweaks in there. There's things with Tori and her turning. There's things with the Korean team that it just feels like there's a way that you could have done the same plot point with a little bit more of the care and the setup and payoff all along the way that was in some of the earlier seasons. And whether it's just because they're, for whatever reason, it feels like some of the things I don't think were quite as tight this season.
Agreed. And I think it's, it's hard to say this season because like, it's like,
right. It's the beginning. It's the first third.
It's literally the first third. So it's like, we're just gonna have to see. I think part 2 will when part 2 comes out, will be on part 2. Like, I think it'll be, we're not gonna be looking back at part 1 at like them playing capture the flag to earn a spot in the Sekai Taigai. Like I feel like there will be more important stuff to address. And I'm excited, man. I think they're gonna take it into we don't really know where they're gonna head with it because it's a world tournament. We don't know the rules, we don't know the stakes. So I think that part excites me where it's like the unknown. But yeah, any final things, any like last thoughts and maybe hopes for part 2?
Man, I don't think so. I think we pretty well covered it, and you said my last little bit there. You know, I guess to something I said earlier in this, the idea of Daniel fighting for Miyagi-Do's global legacy, that to me feels very out of character for what Miyagi-Do actually stands for and meant to Mr. Miyagi.
Well, as of now, we don't know. Maybe he did compete.
Well, so maybe he did compete, but that's also why he opposed these things. So my hope is that that there's some sort of explanation to that, or change of heart, or lesson learned by Daniel, or something along those lines to make it fall in line. And I don't want that to be a revelation about Mr. Miyagi's not quite who we thought he was. Obviously in the season we talked, we didn't even talk about this at all about, Mr. Miyagi's dark past, and people are like, I can't believe that he was like this. Like that's all fine to me, because everyone, human,
me too.
And you understand why Daniel has a little bit of a emotional connection. Why didn't he tell me about this? That's fair. At the same time, it's totally fair that someone went, that's not who I am anymore, so I didn't feel the need to share with you who I used to. But that's fair too. But to that, what I don't want it to be is like redefining Miyagi-Do in the final season of the show to be about global legacies and things like that. That it's just that's, you go back to the whole setup of Karate Kid. Mr. Miyagi didn't even want to fight in the first tournament. Like, he had to be convincing about it. We realized, like, no, I get it. There's a reason to fight in this tournament. Like, he needed a reason. The whole plot of Karate Kid 3 is he didn't think that going back and winning again was a good reason. So how does winning a global tournament fit in line with what we know about him? That's what I want resolved.
To defend that, if Miyagi-Do wins, maybe they'll expand more Miyagi-Dos and Daniel, and they'll get to spread those good teachings of, I know it's kind of ironic, it's like compete in the tournament to teach people not to compete in tournaments. I don't know.
But I think that's also kind of the, like, all of that kind of like even expanding it and teach more people, that, like, all of that, that's Daniel the entrepreneur wanting to start, Mr. Miyagi's little trees and all of that. That's like all of it. That, like, Mr. Miyagi was not like, what I'll do in the United States now that there's a karate boom here in LA after the release of Enter the Dragon. I'm going to start Miyagi-Do it. And he's like, no, I'm going to be a little fix-it man. Like, it's just like, and that's kind of the thing to me, like, of figure out how do these pieces actually fit with what Miyagi-Do's true legacy was, not Daniel's version of it.
For sure.
Daniel's quirks. So I need to see that. I need to see where are they going with this? How is this actually going to fit together?
Yeah. And we still don't know, like, Miyagi's secrets. We don't know what he's done. So, like, that'll be a part 2 thing. We'll see if, like, he did compete, if he didn't, if he was, like, this bad dude, whatever, if he wasn't. We know he wasn't. But, yeah, everyone has a past. So we'll see. But, Sean, this was good. This was a good chat. Mm-hmm. thank you for talking Cobra Kai with me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I was so busy I didn't do as much coverage as I normally would. Well, also because it's mid-season I didn't do as much, but I wasn't able to do like a spoiler. I do this sort of thing because just so much stuff came out in that exact week. There's like, I don't have a day to do a spoiler video because I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this. And so being able to come back around and finally talk through the specifics on everything was good.
I'm glad we did this. It's like a therapy session. It's like
it is.
Well, it's a therapy session, and it was a bit of a writing session.
And hopefully, I'm assuming that the writers, producers, all those guys, the cast, they watch all of each of our videos and they take notes. And so I wouldn't be surprised if they reached out to us right after this goes live, and next thing we know, we're finding ourselves in Los Angeles. In the writer's room doing the last minute rewrites to do the reshoots before part 2.
Yeah. It's like, obviously it might be some delays, guys, but we'll work on it. We'll make it better. And probably the one thing I'll do if I'm in control of the writers' room, I feel like Bert was a little underutilized this season.
Yeah.
So I would probably make Bert a more important character.
Yeah.
If that's all right, Sean. I know you're writing with me, so.
Well,
You know,
I got to see the plot. I mean, it all comes down to plot for me and plot and character. So, how does
Fair
it tie in? And
Fair enough.
does Bert join Johnny on his revenge quest in Las Vegas to avenge Miguel?
Yeah.
That's how are we setting up Bert's sharpshooter skills? That's
Yeah, well, that's after the reveal that Kreese killed Tori's mom.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's after that reveal. That
Right.
Kreese killed Tori's mom, and yeah.
Gets dark.
It's
violent.
It's Cobra Kai, the dark times. Like it's
Cobra Kai, everyone dies.
rated R.
Yeah.
Oh man. This is great. All right, well, thank you, Sean. Thank you everyone for watching. Sean, where can the people find you?
You can find me on YouTube at Sean Chandler Talks About. If you look up Sean Chandler, you either find a guy that looks like me talking about movies or a football player. It is the guy that looks like me that talks about movies.
I was wondering. I thought you looked a bit different when I searched you up, and I was like, I didn't know you played football.
Like, wow, how do you NFL player and full-time YouTuber? You're a really busy guy.
Yeah.
I'm also on the TikTok and the Instagram too. Finally having success with short form content as of recently. So I'm on all the places with the videos and stuff.
It's awesome. Yeah. I mean, personally, I'm a fan of Sean's videos. So if that means anything to you guys, go check him out. But and you can check me out, Cobra Kai Kid, YouTube, Instagram, X, TikTok, I guess, even though I'm on that like never. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you next time. And until then, take us out. Cobra Kai.
Never die.